The song wasn't even sad, but suddenly you had to pull over. You sat there with your hands on the wheel crying, asking yourself, why am I like this? The answer is quieter than you think. Nothing is wrong with you. And it isn't only the song. You notice when a room changes. You notice what someone almost said but didn't. You carry one conversation for days. After being called too sensitive again and again, you started to wonder if they were right. And somewhere along the way, you started wishing you could just feel less. Here's the strange part, that the thing you learned to hide may not be a flaw at all. Psychology has studied it for decades, not as a disorder, not as a diagnosis, but as a real difference in how some nervous systems process the world. Roughly 1 in 5 people carry it, and that changes the whole conversation. One of the clearest ways psychology explains this is through something called sensory processing sensitivity, or SPS. Psychologist Elaine Aron began studying it in the 1990s. The idea is simple. Some nervous systems process incoming information more deeply than others. Not more dramatically, more deeply, more cross-referencing, more nuance, more implications noticed before a word is spoken or a feeling is named. This is not a flaw. It is a feature, and it shows up in roughly 15 to 20% of humans and over 100 other species. That is why it can be so hard to explain. You're not trying to be dramatic. You are not trying to get attention. Your brain may simply be reading more layers at once. What happened, what it meant, what it connects to, what might come next. All of it, before most people have registered the first thing. So when something true passes through you, a song, a look, a quiet moment, your system doesn't just receive it, it takes it in fully. And brain research seems to point in the same direction. In one fMRI study, Acevedo, Elaine Aron, and their team looked at how highly sensitive people's brains responded to other people's emotions. What they found? The brains of highly sensitive people showed stronger activation in areas connected to empathy and awareness. Not more reactive, more engaged. The brain wasn't overreacting. It was doing more work and noticing more of what was actually there. And this is the part many sensitive people never hear growing up. The same depth that makes you cry at a song also helps you notice when someone is quietly not okay. The same mind that carries a conversation for days also understands people in ways they cannot always put into words themselves. You were not given too much feeling. You were given a different kind of noticing, and the world spent years asking you to turn it down. But there is one important difference. Not every intense feeling comes from sensitivity alone. Sometimes a person feels everything because their past taught their nervous system to scan for danger, for protection. Both can look the same from the outside. Both can feel overwhelming from the inside. But they come from very different places, and that difference matters. This is why the environment matters so much. Researchers sometimes explain sensitivity with the orchid and dandelion idea. Dandelions can grow almost anywhere. Orchids need more specific conditions, but in the right environment, orchids don't just survive. They produce something remarkable. Sensitive people, research suggests, aren't only more affected by difficulty, they are also more responsive to support, connection, and care, more affected by bad environments, but also more able to thrive in good ones. That is not a weakness in both directions. That is a difference in both directions. Inside one sensitive person, two voices often live together. The first one says, something is wrong with me. I feel too much. I need to toughen up. The second one is quieter. It says, maybe this is how I notice things. Maybe this is not a flaw. Most sensitive people have spent years listening to the first voice. Not because it was right, because it was louder. The question isn't which voice is true. The question is, which one have you been training? So, what actually helps? Not forcing yourself to feel less, not pretending you have thicker skin, not numbing what was meant to be felt. What helps is learning the difference between signal and noise. A sensitive nervous system picks up on everything. Not everything needs a response. The music that moves you, signal. The stranger's bad mood you absorbed in the elevator, that is noise. Learning to notice both without being consumed by either. That is the work. And slowly, something changes. Not because you feel less, you still feel everything. But now, you can stand inside it without disappearing. You can receive what is true. You can release what is not yours. The song still moves you, but you are no longer ashamed of it. The room shift still lands on you, but you trust yourself to know what to do with it. You are not too much. You never were. Remember that car, the one on the side of the road, the one where you thought, why am I like this? Maybe what happened there was not a breakdown. Maybe something true passed through you, and your nervous system did what it was designed to do. It noticed. You do not need to hate that part of you. You need to learn how to trust it. If this helped you feel a little less alone, save and subscribe. That is what this channel is for.